All right, guys, happy Friday. We made it. All right, today's an asynchronous day, obviously, which is why you're watching this video. I'm going to remind you that your progress check and reflection was due yesterday. And so after today, I'm going to start marking some missings just to remind you that you need to get it done. Because ultimately, waiting until Monday to try to do it, what's the point? We also will have another progress check next week anyway, so you might as well get them done. So they will lock on Monday. You will not be able to complete it. I will not entertain emails about reopening the progress check on AP Classroom. So let's make sure those are done. All right, on Wednesday, we went over evaluating and scoring some argument essays based on looking at the rubric and the prompt. And so you had three samples and you were asked to score them. So if you open up this PDF, I've given you the actual scores and the commentaries for each row for each of these essays. And so the first one scored a 4, and you'll see examples within the commentary. Sample B obviously scored the 6, and I really want you to look at the commentary here on row C and for row B, looking at what gives it the 4 out of the 4, because a lot of you had a lot of questions about that anytime we had our conferences, and so I hope this would clarify some of that for you. And then score point 3, I also want you to look at some of this as well, because a lot of us did score in this 3 range, and so I want you to be able to pinpoint exact reasons and examples as to why this type of writing would earn a 3 and ultimately not a passing score. Okay, and so after looking through the samples, looking at the rubric, and then now looking at the commentaries, you are going to prep for your next timed writing, which will be an argument essay. So open up this pre-writing chart, and then I'm going to go through how I would do this if I were to be sitting here writing this essay with you, okay? So in this help chart, I've given you the prompt here, and of course giving you, these different opportunities for you to think through potential examples. But I want to show you now how you're going to elaborate on this to ensure that you actually craft your claims this time and not just think of examples. So the prompt says, in her book, Gift from the Sea, author and aviator Anne-Maure Lindbergh writes, we tend not to choose the unknown, which might be a shock or a disappointment, or simply a little difficult to cope with. And yet it is the unknown with all its disappointments and surprises that is the most enriching. Write an essay that argues your position on Lindbergh's claim that choosing the unknown is valuable and enriching. So here, what I first would do would be to think about your position. Are you agreeing or disagreeing? Is this a yes or a no? And thinking about the answers to those questions will help you formulate that thesis statement. Remember, you have to choose a position, right? And although you can say, well, it may seem valuable and enriching, blah, 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 here's my, position. Or, even though disappointment and shock is terrifying, blah, 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 whatever you want to say. All right, so here's what mine would look like. You can tell that I have highlighted the prompt. I really want to talk about this claim. I need to make sure that it's my position. Note I said, do I agree? Do I disagree? Do I agree that yes, the unknown is valuable and enriching, or not? Or what do I want to say about that? So then I just thought about, what came to mind when it came to examples. So you can kind of see, like in history, right? All these battles that people have fought, not knowing the outcome, medical advancements and treatments and cures and scientific discoveries and space travel, right? These are all unknown and uncharted territories. Thinking about experiences, and I'm thinking about generalized experiences that, yes, I've participated in, but what do people experience in regards to choosing the unknown, right? Like college, starting a new job, voting for a new candidate, right? You're choosing something that is not known in terms of the results or the consequences. For literature, of course, I think about the Odyssey. I think about, Macbeth. Did really knowing in terms of the prophecy really work out? Not so much for Macbeth, right? And of course, right now, the coronavirus, that is the hugest most unknown thing, particularly like our vaccines. And so those are just some of the things that if I were to just quickly sketch it out, that's what I would come up with. But I can't stop here, okay? I can't just draft this and automatically think that I can go into a timed writing, right? A lot of us just did this step, and this is how we earned a 3. So you know how much I like my inverted pyramid. So I have my little pizza slice here. And if I were to actually sit down and write this, I would choose from my help chart, from my help chart, 2 or 3 examples. Okay, maybe I want to use, scientific discoveries, and in particular, or maybe even space travel, like landing on the moon, and maybe, with the coronavirus and the vaccines. Maybe those are the 2 things I want to talk about. Okay. Next, I need to think about what does each example prove? What does, landing on the moon prove? What does, these vaccines, choosing these vaccines, what do they prove? And once I can answer those questions, then I have claims for each of those body paragraphs. And once I complete these 2 claims, I then need to complete a thesis statement that kind of generalizes those 2 points together, because then when I write my essay, I've done that, right? Then I start with my thesis and my intro. I start with my, point number 1 and then give my example. Then my point number 2, then give my example. And then ultimately I have created this entire running line of reasoning, which honestly, that's what gets you that score point 3. The way that you tie them together and the depth of your examples are what's going to really help you with that sophistication point. But really looking at those complexities and thinking about, obviously this isn't an easy answer, right? It's not always valuable and enriching. The disappointments and the terror and the fear and the anxiety, those are valid reasons why we don't choose the unknown. And so, if you can point out that information within your essay in context with what you pre-write, that's really what's going to get you into that sophistication point, okay? So work through this help chart. If, on the second page of this pre-writing chart, you want to go to here and then kind of draft out some of the things I just showed you on my example, feel free. And then this attendance question for today is really going to be based on those commentary and the scoring from College Board. What aha moments do you have? What major takeaways do you have? What observations based on the examples and the scoring commentary can you apply to your own writing? And so I really want you to reflect on that today for your attendance question, okay? All right, everybody, make sure you're keeping up with your week at a glance and your MP4 assignments document, because that has a list of all of the grades. I obviously need to update it this week, but I mean, if you're falling behind, you can kind of check here, and then of course check your week at a glance for final deadlines. All right. Have a great Friday, everybody, and I will see you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend.